Good evening, everyone. So, welcome back from the holidays that you must have had for Pongal. So, we will be beginning like completely now. We will be switching to the prelims mode, and today we will be starting a new module of international relations and mapping. So, the underlying logic here of beginning with mapping is it is a convergence of multiple topics. Let us understand how. Okay, so till now we are used to deal with mapping only as a geography concept, right? But UPSC is moving away from that philosophy. How? Let us understand. Now, when you look at maps, what comes to your mind? The usual world maps, right? So when we are looking at world map, it is the geography layer, the spatial logic. What do you mean by spatial logic? So this forms the basis of our mapping. It is the distribution of a parameter. It can be anything. It is basically distribution of, let's say, a resource. It can be a distribution of a resource, a conflict. It can be distribution of power. It can be distribution of money. It can be distribution of people, anything, basically. The spatial logic is used to explain pictorially what is divided. So, broadly, UPSC is asking mapping questions from geographical standpoint from 1995 till 2020. Post-COVID era, we are witnessing a transition in the interdisciplinary nature of maps also. So, now mapping, the basic layer is geography only. On the top of that geography layer, many other parameters are added. For example, you will see trade. If you get questions on choke points, what are choke points? Let's say in global navigation, there can be some places on our earth where if the access to that place is cut off, economy will be impacted. Can you name such choke points? Suez Canal, which is in current affairs. You can also talk about the Lombok Strait, Malacca Strait, through which international trade happens. So traditionally, UPSC picked up these choke points from international relations standpoint and asked them at various places in our previous year questions. As a standalone topic, you must have noticed straits as a topic in geography. The concept of strait. So, one way of asking a question in maps is combining the strait as a geographical concept and mapping it, or adding one more layer with the trade using choke point logic. So if previous year questions had a standalone question on straits as a concept and the options, let's say for example A, B, C, D, these options are mentioned. Let's say Malacca Strait, Lombok Strait, and many other strait, Gibraltar Strait. If these are mentioned in the options, you should have information on these straits. That is the basic layer. If UPSC asked questions from the standpoint of international relations in the context of how this choke points impacted economy, that can be one layer. On the top of that, you can also add environmental layer. Right. Let's say if certain environmental resources are distributed across the world, the underlying geographical conditions, let's say where are you more likely to find coniferous forests across the world? So the concept of biomes, which is traditionally a convergence of geography and environment, can be clubbed with trade, can be clubbed with international relations. Let's say any trade negotiations, any climate negotiations, and a multi-statement question can be created. So, mapping environment, economy, and traditional international relations can be converged into a systematic whole block, and this is one of the most often ignored topic in our preparation. If you prepare like this, the whole concept of mapping, we are basically talking about almost 10 questions, certainly with the least amount of effort, right? And to be able to execute this, you need to move away only from information. Information alone will not make the cut, because your traditional experience is you read it from a material and then automatically you try to recall it. But the problem is, in the exam hall, when you are trying to recall it from a particular context and apply it elsewhere, there is a lag, and that lag creates panic and confusion. And when you are not exposed to this kind of thinking under pressure, your decisions will collapse, and that is why you are making errors. The objective of this class is not to give you information alone. Of course, you will be getting information, but we will correct our orientation in such a way that no matter what kind of a question is asked, as a block, we will be looking at the entire theme. Now, to give you an example, let's take a resource here. Let's take the resource of water, for example. Now, in traditional geographical sense, water is a resource. So, what kind of questions can you get on the basis of water? In geography, if you take a look at your traditional textbooks, you can know these points, okay? When you are reading geography as a resource from your NCRTs, you will know the drainage patterns. Even before we talk about drainage patterns, we will actually see what is the water available. Sea water or water in oceans and other water. Glaciers, above land, below land, underground water, and the respective separation. This is water as a resource. So what can you get in mapping as this question? From India standpoint, you can get this as which of the rivers are flowing to east or to the west. What are the constraints for the flow of this? What is the geographical phases of respective drainage systems, the boundaries therein, the hill systems that are in that area, the environmental body, like the protected areas, national parks, etc. in these areas, through which states you will observe the flow of this water, river water. This kind of questions you are already aware. This is the most traditional way of asking questions. Now, what is the other way of asking the same concept? I will pick up the same river, map it to the geographical sites in history. Because civilizations always, I'm taking the example of water because we just finished the theme of culture. There are certain issues in culture that we have completed, so I am picking up the same theme. There are many cities, many civilizations on the banks of rivers which prospered, right? So I will pick up those sites and I will put them on a map and say which of the following are east to west, west to east, north to south, or on different timelines. So I can club water as a theme with GS1 history across chronology and spatially. See, this spatial logic, today we know Patna. What is the olden name of Patna? I will take all the ancient sites names and arrange them east to west, west to east, and the common theme is that they're all on the bank of a specific river. You need not know all the names. At least one name, if you find out, you will be able to eliminate the options. That is how questions will be designed. But unless you are aware that this sort of questions are possible, how will you think and how will you be prepared? Right. Now, let's move away from water as a GS1 topic to water as a GS2 topic. That is polity topic. Where can you think of polity and basically IR topic? River sharing, exactly. Article 3.2, which one? Then international relations, water sharing, interstate, when international rivers and interstate river conflicts. Can you name any conflicts that India has with other countries? Brahmaputra. With Nepal, do we have anything? River Kali. Teesta. Teesta is which river basically? With which country, sorry? So, when you get questions like this in GS2, this is one possibility. Now, let's move to GS3. Basically, environment. Water as a theme in environment. So, water as a theme in environment, basically, we are talking in terms of environmental governance, which is again overlapping with GS2. I'm just giving one example, okay? This is not current affair class, but I'm just talking about how questions can be designed by UPSC. So when I'm talking about environmental governance, again there needs to be a structure. So global level, do we have any bodies here? National level, do you have any bodies here? State level. If you are talking about national level and state level, what are the laws governing them? So here is where you need to have a clear-cut differentiation between executive, that is implementing agency, and law-making agency. Who has that power? Here you can link it to Article 246, Schedule 7. Environment is a concurrent subject. So in this concurrent subject, what is the role of state? What is the role of nation? That is a parliament. You can think in these lines also. Okay. So when you can expect a same theme to be placed on a map like this, everywhere you will notice a global alignment. Now to this latest theme, we also have one more layer, that is science and tech, in terms of global tech diplomacy. So you have technologies now popping up, let's say AI summits. There is a need for creating a uniform rule across the world, at least on some matters. Then you have fintech, cyber security, nuclear power. So when you have international relations where these scientific themes are overlapping with politics, that is also a source of questions, right? Lastly, the usual places in news, which do not have any coherent theme until now, but it is now becoming more and more clear if you take a look at the data. Any topic or any theme where you see a conflict over resources, power sharing, and if it involves two nations where boundary is a problem. You will notice that in UPSC questions. And overlap, if you have to even narrow it down, you will notice wherever there is a severe poverty and resource crunch, that is the weakest point in the global governance architecture. So these conflict zones, whether it is the African nations, whether it is South America, Middle East, Israel, Syria, Iran, Iraq, that region completely. And even within Africa, the Sahel region or the Great Lakes region, where you will find very rich resources and foreign powers trying to gain control. Or whether it is the Southeast Asia, where China is trying to gain a lot of influence. These are the multiple themes that we have to study. Our only agenda is not to just get swayed by all this information, find patterns. This topic can be mastered when you have the ability to master those patterns rather than mugging up information. A golden rule that I want all of you to follow is you are not going to memorize everything. You are only going to memorize exceptions. We will try to find patterns, observe those patterns, and reinforce those patterns in our practice through questions, through previous year questions, through test series. But you will only memorize the exceptions. This is the context of how we are going to approach this next block, where you will see a convergence between international relations, mapping, environment, economy. This block is worth nearly 40 marks, 20 questions in my opinion. We are not just talking about maps alone. We are not talking about geography alone. It's like a convergence of all these current affair themes as a systematic block, which changes from year to year. That is why this theme is extremely important. Clear? Now, right, where are you going wrong? Let's see. If you take a look at your traditional magazines or notes, how do you usually notice that pattern? You will write down notes like this. BRICS headquarters is somewhere. Members are so and so people. New entrants came into the picture. You know, this is how you will make notes. I'm not talking about the factual accuracy, whatever it is. You must have noted down some facts. And what do? You mug them up. What is your hope? They should automatically translate into marks. Right? You mug up something, that question should come in the exam, it should get correct. Like it should be giving you 2 marks. This is the expectation, right? But it's never going to happen. Primarily because UPSC by default wants people who have the ability to judge what to remove, to find the odd one out. UPSC is like a pattern recognition game. You eliminate by figuring out the pattern, mapping it to current affairs, practice it through test series, make as many mistakes as possible. That is what preparation is all about. So what I do here is just the step 1. And to be very honest, the classes are not delivered with an intent to help you think most of the times. It is to deliver information. So a lot of students sit and mug up all this content with the hope that it will translate into marks, which is not going to happen. If you have to demonstrate, this is actually taken up from one of the students' notes. She sent me a copy asking like, is this notes good enough? I literally took a copy of that and wanted to show what is the problem in how your notes is like and how actually the questions are asked. These are taken from 2025 paper. Take a look at this. She claimed that she made notes from 2025 themes. This is what she made. And what is the actual question asked? Did Indonesia say yes or no to join? Or these are the specifics of that question. I'm not going into the depth. So the whole point I'm trying to make is what you made in your notes is not the demand of this exam. You are trying to condense the large piece of information, 200 pages into 30, 40, 50 pages, with a hope of not going through the 200 pages again. If question is not coming from the 200 pages, it is not UPSC's problem, it is your problem. And you are making notes to satisfy a different need. You are not looking at the patterns. So, notes should be made when you understand the demand. The pattern recognition should be very clear. In the absence of the awareness of those patterns, your notes will be a pile of junk, nothing more than that. So, if I have to sum up, how did the post-COVID era, especially in the last 3-4 years, how did the exam evolve? This is how I would sum it up. What is it? Previously, where will you find this resource? Where can you expect this river? Where can you expect this mine? These are the kind of questions. Memory based. UPSC moved on. Now it is like a system. If I as China, let's say, I want to get hold of a mine in Africa, what do I do? What stops me? This is China's point of view. India. If I have to stop China from accessing that, how should I negotiate? What will be the appropriate fora to make that happen? This is the kind of a systematic awareness that you are expected to have, not current affairs, current awareness, like a systematic whole. What stops you from achieving your objective? Like a diplomat, like a bureaucrat who is supposed to take those decisions, the game begins with your prelims. So the preparation should also change. So in today's class, we will be beginning with the most basic framework of UN system. This is basics. Why? Because if you make mistakes in these basics, the other current affairs that you will mug up will obviously become wrong. So even when you are preparing current affairs, you have to build from basics and focus on some minimum non-negotiable areas. Okay, so let's go by that. Now take a look at this. I have literally picked up this infographic from the UN website. Let's be very honest. Do you think you can mug this up? Just take a look at this entire chart. You know what UN website itself says? The heading reads like this: let us try to make sense of this alphabetic soup. This is the literal sentence given in UN website. If UN knows this is very difficult for people to comprehend, they don't expect, UPSC doesn't expect you to mug up. It's a very inefficient way of using your mind. UPSC demands efficiency from you. So, if you were to pick up questions from this, design questions from this, how should you approach? See, if I have to show proof and tell that you have to mug up this and I'll give you this link, in today's world, do you really think finding the resource is a real challenge? No. Everybody can do that. But how can you mug up? You can't. When you can't mug up, it's a handicap. And by a logical extension, you conclude that I can't clear this exam. Right? So, the class should be solving that problem, that pain point. So, in this class, what we are intending to do is rewire your thinking about entire UN system, which will be the building block, and I will help you understand how to approach that logic on different previous year questions. So let's begin with this. Why do you think UN exists? Yes? If you were a part of the ethics modules, what is the purpose of ethics? To create stability in the world. Right, this is what we discussed in the ethics module. Within the ethics module, we were discussing international ethics. And we were saying that we have to institutionalize the need to create that peace. Right. How do you do that? Through organizations. the intended objective here is achieved through this UN. Clear? How? You have to understand the various functions of UN. What are the various functions? There are some bodies which will decide the agenda. If you say I want peace, it's not going to fall from heaven. You have to negotiate because there are so many power centers. We have almost 197 countries in this world, and other major players who would tilt the power game in their favor. So it's a negotiation. So different UN bodies within the entire ecosystem of UN will do different things. They will decide, just like how Parliament decides how to go about the rule of law, there will be some decision making legislative bodies as per UN Constitution. What is this UN Constitution called? UN Charter. Okay. Within that, there is a chapter which is non-negotiable. Do nothing that will take away peace from this world. This rule cannot be changed. Right. With that as the flag post, some organizations will try to create laws. What are those bodies? These are the bodies. The principal organs that you see here are intended to decide that agenda. General Assembly, Security Council, ECOSOC, Secretariat, ICJ, Trusteeship Council. This you have to by heart. There is no other way. Okay. What are the UN principal organs? There are 6 in number. UN General Assembly, UN Security Council, Secretariat, ECOSOC, Trusteeship Council, and International Court of Justice. These are the UN principal organs. One, right away, because of the fact that it is in news, one way in which UPSC can confuse us, replace this International Court of Justice with International Criminal Court. Two different things. Cricket fans, please be careful. I'm not talking about the cricket governing body. It's a different thing. International Criminal Court. Right. So these are the UN principal organs which set the agenda. Now, do you expect efficiency if the same body is also expected to execute stuff? No, right? So we will need some delegation from this. That delegation will happen in this way. For example, any body that will report to the General Assembly through programs and funds are the implementing agencies. Alright. You have to take cognizance of this specialized agencies which report to Economic and Social Council. Don't get confused between the programs and funds and the specialized agencies. These two are different. A case to the point being, a lot of us get confused with UNEP and let's say a body like UNWTO or UNESCO. Two different agendas. Okay, look at the word program. Okay, I'll tell you what is the logic here. But before that, so you will have delegated bodies where different, the respective work of the different organization is taken care by these bodies. But out of all this organizational chart, the difference between programs and specialized agencies is the most important thing, because most of the questions will come from here. All right. So we are not going to mug up all this. Let's see how to approach this. Broadly speaking, UN entities are of two kinds. Okay. Specialized agencies, funds and programs. The two main areas which we have to focus. So, if you see the specialized agencies here, the World Health Organization, World Bank, IMF, ICAO, all this, they deal with a very specific technical topic. For example, World Health Organization deals with health. IMF deals with balance of payments crisis. Civil Aviation Organization deals with international civil aviation, which is a very technical rule setting body. if you have to create uniformity across the world on a specific topic, you need a centralized agency. Why do you need this? Because in the absence of that, your social contract, individuals and the state will have a social contract. What about state and state? There is no power above them, because if there is a power above them, it will come in conflict with the concept of sovereignty. So you need a centralized regulating body, right? And they should have the legal mandate to set standards. So when countries come together on a specific agenda, you will have to give them the autonomy to function as per that rule book, because you already agreed upon it. And that is the point of the specialized agencies, and they will report to UN ECOSOC, Economic and Social Council. Right? So, this is the first point you need to note. The second point, funds and programs are basically functioning either under ECOSOC. You can see here, some of them will, see here, there is an overlap. Some of them will report to ECOSOC or some of them will report to General Assembly. Don't have to worry about the specifics here. The funda is they can't survive on their own. They don't have the funds. They are merely support staff. If I want to do some implementation work on environment, I don't want to get my feet on the ground, I will delegate it. It's like Zomato head office trying to delegate the work to the local delivery people, gig economy. But gig economy is very susceptible to fluctuations, right? Just like how it is very vulnerable there, here also, the funding is a very big problem. It is completely on the basis of voluntary fronts. There is no right. You don't have a dedicated fund for automatic functioning, which makes them very vulnerable. So, UPSC generally designs options in such a way saying that UNEP is a fund giving body. They don't have funds for themselves. Where will they give money from? So, why am I talking about all this? Because most of people, now we are in an era where you are exposed to internet and you are tempted to apply the so-called elimination techniques. In the absence of a coherent knowledge, you are definitely going to attempt this. One of the trick that is peddled out in the market is, if you see a organization name in international relations, switch it. Like it is definitely wrong. That was the case previously. Now they want to test the knowledge in depth. UN bodies, because it is the 80th year, definitely it is in news. UNSC reforms, UN reforms, it's definitely in news. So they can pick up anything. If you are not aware of the basics, definitely you will make a mistake. So if UPSC picks up any topic, and especially if it is UN, just be careful, cross check. Don't automatically say this is wrong. It's a probability, not a 100% certainty, that in the previous years they changed the international organizations' names. It is not a guarantee that they will do it every time. Okay? This is one point. At least don't do that for very known topics like UN. If a random name like World Toilet Organization comes, okay, I can understand. Maybe there you can apply this, because that is more common sense. Even that we will see how to apply that topic. But don't do it randomly. So you understood the difference between specialized agencies and programs and funds. One is set by a rule-based agenda. Two is a executive order. Voluntary funds are there for these programs. Most important one among them is UNEP, which you will come across in your current affairs and previous year questions. That is the reason this fundamental distinction should be known to you. Clear? Moving forward. So what are the points you have to remember? These specialized agencies are created by a separate treaty. They are created by UN resolution. If you have to give a parallel, legal bodies versus executive bodies, in statutory bodies versus just a executive body in Indian constitution topic. Similarly, these are also the specialized agencies are statutory bodies, and these funds and programs are basic executive bodies. Treat it like that. Clear? Moving on. There are some exceptions. I told you, you have to remember the exceptions. What did I tell you? Most of them will report to the UN agencies, the core agencies. But one exception is, like one theme is security. If there is any specialized body that is dealing with security, it will not report to UN ECOSOC, it will directly report to UNSC, Security Council. What are those three organizations? You have to mug them up. Again, this is two organizations. You have to mug them up. IAEA and OPCW. Clear? These two relate to security aspect. That is why they report to UNSC. But when it comes to WTO, it is existing as a parallel standalone program based on intergovernmental negotiations. Clear? It is not reporting to any UN body. It came much later. Because if again WTO is subjected to the rules of UN Charter, the negotiations make no sense. It's duplication of effort. That's why WTO is kept outside that ambit. Clear? So these two you have to remember. What did I ask you to remember? 6 UN bodies and these exceptions. Rest everything is through logic. Clear? Moving on. Now, one more area where you have to see how power, geography converges into practical logistics. Again, you can put them on map and say this is a mapping topic also. But you will notice that all the specialized agencies and UN agencies have headquarters, clustered around some major places only. Like Geneva, Rome, Madrid, London, New York, Washington. Why only there? There must be some practical significance, right? Otherwise, how does it make sense? There should be some thematic cluster, some logical coherence behind headquarters being present only there and not elsewhere. Instead of taking out the entire list and mugging up where the headquarters are and then forgetting it, don't you think this is an efficient way of utilizing our mental capacity? Let's understand that, because that fact can also be one source of eliminating the option. Let's look at the various organizations and where these clusters are there. Take a look at this. You have Geneva, New York, Rome, Vienna, Paris, Washington. These are some of the places. Like there are some other places like Kenya, Nairobi, and Madrid. These are hubs of major UN bodies. And it is quite possible, if you don't understand the logic behind it, you will forget it. So let's understand that logic. Take a look at this. Geneva. Where is Geneva? Why do you think they placed it there? See, if you want to answer why, you have to see the bodies that are present in that region. And Geneva, out of all the places, is very important because you will see that is different. Don't get confused. Again, I'll come back to that. Geneva Convention is different, and this is a different context. We are talking about, UN headquarters. Why are they located in certain hubs? We're just talking about the basics, 1950s, 60s, and 70s. So we're not yet in the current affairs part, but you will have to apply the same metacognition pattern in present times also. Why Geneva? To understand this logic, you have to know the context of the post-World War era. The world is divided into two halves. The Cold War era, Russian bloc, the USSR bloc, and the US bloc. Communism, capitalism, socialism, capitalism debate is full swing. And there is a natural skepticism towards anything that has got to do with human rights, because the idea of human rights or anything that can set norms can be weaponized. Like, let's say a third world country which is very poor in the post World War era wants to access some funds, and these specialized agencies funding is again dependent on the major powers. Even though it is rule based, they're still dependent on major contributions, like say US. So there is a natural skepticism. If the location is either on the eastern side or on the western side, either of the groups had a big problem. A good neutral point was Geneva. So if you take a look at any major rights based or social justice aspect part is there, right? Human capital, social justice. You will see that the headquarters are mostly located in Geneva. It's just a observation and logistic convenience. So I'm not asking you to mug up everything. If you find an anomaly, remember that. Cross verify and remember that. But don't mug up anything. So if I have to show some important organizations where Geneva had an edge, I'm giving you a mnemonic, worlds, if you still want to memorize. Weather, human rights, intellectual property, refugees, labor, standards of ISO and science, basically. These all organizations have their headquarters in Geneva. Take a look at this. Anything that has an international bearing on social rights or any common agenda, you will find their headquarters here. That is the norm. I don't want you to mug up this point, but if there is any body like this on social justice part where the option is not in Geneva, you have to be careful. Clear? Now look at the other parts. Why New York? New York is the hub of P5. So security aspects and the negotiations happen in New York. So it's natural that UNSC headquarters is there. Next, Rome, Food and Agricultural Organization. Historically, that used to be the transit point. Logistically, it is very convenient. So the world at that point of time was very Eurocentric. Europe was the center of all the global negotiations, and therefore they saw that Rome was a logistically convenient hub for any discussion on this food and agriculture related issues, because it's accessible to people from the east and the west equally. So Rome became the head of FAO. Vienna, again, this is a place which has headquarters of slightly technical issues like organized crime, drugs, etc. Again, this is a technical hub where the expertise was there. Again, this was because of the historical factors of the the interwar period as well as the post-war period, where you have a lot of experts in these areas. So international intelligence gathering and all this, you will see a lot of experts in and around that, especially after the demise of Hitler. You have seen a surge of these bodies which were previously organized as private bodies. They got some employment under government in this kind of a setup. So Vienna became the hub for this. Then think of Paris of Renaissance period, like the French Revolution, etc. Like Paris became the hub of anything that has got to do with culture. So you will see UNESCO OECD, all this kind of places in Paris. Okay. Then Washington. Why Washington? Because it is the hub of US power, the most powerful nation. Anything that has got to do with funds will be in and around Washington. Wherever you have money, you will see the flow of power from there. So the next time you see a question, this is the 4 stages you have to have a look. Is it a UN based organization? Cross verify. Does it have its own treaty? So if it has its own treaty in the statement, if it is given, if you think it is right, it must be logically a specialized agency. And you will know this specialized agency through current affairs in one way or the other. And if it has got anything to do with weapons, it's definitely not reporting to ECOSOC. It is going to UNSC. Or just see if it is something related to trade, it must go to WTO, not elsewhere. This check will ensure that most of your errors will be free from this gimmicks. If a organization name is there, mark it right, wrong, all this illogical stuff. Those patterns are necessary. It is important to recognize those patterns. But where will you apply them? In a topic that you have never come across. Not in the known areas like this. UN is there in NCRTs. All these topics are there in NCRTs. Definitely they will expect you to remember facts. And you can't remember all the facts. So cluster them logically like this. Now that you are depending on the knowledge and practical part, we will move away from memorization and use the same logic to solve the previous year questions. Let's see. Take a look at this. IBRD, International Bank for Reconstruction and World and Development. What is this IBRD? World Bank. If you are preparing economy, especially the inclusive growth part and the external sector part, you will notice 2 organizations. IMF, World Bank. World Bank has 5 different wings under it. One of them is IBRD, and the respective mandates are taught in economy. You are expected to know this part. Clear? Not just in international relations, but also in IR and economy. So this is not an alien topic. It is not a random name. This is there in NCRT. So by all those tick boxes, this is supposed to be very precise, knowledge oriented and logic oriented topic. Now, if you read the options, it provides loans and guarantees to middle income countries. If you want to negate this, what is wrong? Can you tell me at least one instance where this is wrong? You will be able to do that when you know the respective mandate of this organization. Right? If you know the mandate, you will make it right. If you don't know the mandate, you will make it wrong. So the logic here you should know is World Bank and IMF mandate. You should know. This is the takeaway from today's class. First takeaway. What all should you memorize? What are the 5 bodies which will constitute this? Anyway, you don't have to know that fact to solve this question. Take a look at the second. Single-handedly, it works to help developing countries to reduce poverty. Why single-handedly? What are the governments there to do then? If they are single-handedly doing everything, what are the sovereign nations doing? If just by giving money everything is solved, why do we have governments? Why all this power game? It's a very illogical statement, right? Now eliminate this. Do you have to know the topic here? No single body will single-handedly, fix the system. These are the illogical things that you need to observe. This is the difference between current affairs and current awareness. A candidate who is reliant on current affairs will probably pick up this topic from a magazine instead of an NCERT textbook. Mug up that magazine, check for that fact, and they will focus on this extreme worded statements and logic like that. Yes, in this case, coincidentally, it was right. I will replace this. P5, the Permanent 5 Commission, single-handedly have the power to veto. Is it right or wrong? So a candidate who is just reliant on YouTube tricks like this will see this and associate it. This is called heuristic thinking. Heuristics means our mind reduces cognitive load as much as possible and jumps to conclusion. You heard this phrase, jumping to conclusion. Why does it happen? It is our mind's low effort, way to get over the discomfort. And if you are getting over the discomfort, you will probably escape out of that exam hall, but not this UPSC cycle. So please be careful. Get back to the basics. You should have the sense of judgment on where to apply this shortcut techniques. Because ultimately you will get some questions which are very alien. Apply it there, not here. Take a look at this. World Toilet Organization. World Toilet. It is one of the agencies of United Nations. What do you think? Let's wait. We don't know. World Toilet Summit, Toilet Day, Toilet College are the initiatives of this organization to inspire action. Global sanitation crisis. Why not? We don't have facts at this point of time to negate it. Chalo. The main focus of its function is to grant funds. Agencies. Is it a specialized agency? Are you aware of anything like that? Do you think UPSC will expect you to remember the entire list? No, right? Okay, let's see. To the least developed countries and developing countries to achieve the end of open defecation. How many agencies or which global bodies will have this kind of power? Development banks. What are those development banks? World Bank, New Development Bank, Asian Development Bank, Africa, like many other agencies like this. Developmental banks will have that kind of money. Who will give funds? If they are giving funds, they are setting up summits, they are also doing this college work. How will they sustain? Makes no sense. So if you eliminate this, definitely these two are gone. Now 1 and 2. If it is one of the agencies of United Nations, it should have a mandate. It is neither a, when I say agencies, specialized agencies, it is not a program or a fund. Remember, UPSC doesn't casually use any jargon. The word agency here means that it is a body formed out of a treaty. Do you think for climate finance itself, world is not giving money? Do you think for sanitation, that too a subsector of sanitation, that to toilet construction and colleges, US will give money? The only country that is having that kind of money is US. Forget toilets, they are withdrawing out of World Health Organization. We are talking about 2024. By that time, it is already clear that Trump is exiting. Is making a clear-cut signal that he will be out of everything that has got to do with money. Because they are sitting on a 3 trillion debt. The world is sitting over a 3 trillion debt. This is the kind of current awareness, situational awareness you need to exhibit. Now, another area where World Economic Forum can be confusing. Here, the topic will be mostly on the basis of indices. This is a very old topic. UPSC has not been asking indices, reports based questions in a long time. Even if they're asking, it's going to be, it is not going to be a deal breaker for you. You will anyway cover them in factoids, random facts before the exam, if it is so important in current affairs, or if they decide to repeat the previous year question logic in a application based manner, in that second context, this discussion will be important to you. What are the things you need to know? World Economic Forum is a corporate body where it is lobbying for a specific issue, which is in the interest of capitalists. And that capitalist outcome is supposed to be equally distributed, the fruits of that. This is the forum which came up with the idea of stakeholder capitalism. Something on lines of the Gandhiji's concept of trusteeship, where the rich should take care of the poor. So, if you see any large number game related, like the 1 million, 100 million farmer initiative, massive scale, you can't do it alone with the government help. It should be a multi-stakeholder engagement. So private bodies are definitely included. And the only forum that has such a level of corporate presence is World Economic Forum. Because the next wave of money making will be in this climate transition only. So these corporate bodies are also interested in participating in these events. So you have to remember that a big, like a round figure will be there in the questions, or any combination of energy transition, green policy and tech, or you're talking about the stakeholders like private, public, multiple NGOs, etc. Definitely you have to incline your thought towards World Economic Forum. This is the pattern observed. Okay. So if you see words like net zero, resilient, nature positive, IR, fourth industrial revolution. Okay. So these are associated with World Economic Forum because it involves the businesses. Okay. Take a look at this. 100 million farmers. Platform for accelerating transition towards food and suggests that net zero, nature positive, farmer resilience. You will find like this. Okay. Why not these options? These are very narrow. So 100 million farmers is a global scale. So this is very narrow, like organic animal husbandry. Service for build blockchain. It is a platform with the mission of encouraging farmers to form farmer product organizations or consortiums, access to global markets to sell their products. So between these two, which is more likely to be accepted? This one. Farmer consortiums are a concept in poor countries. Capitalists don't care about that. They won't give power to people. So this is more likely. Similarly, UN Credentials Committee set up by UNSC. Obviously it is false. Traditionally meets. Ad hoc committee, why will it meet every year? It will need when the need arrives. 3 only. Okay. So this is how UN as a topic will be very relevant. So to sum up, what did we discuss today? We discussed the concept of maps. We saw how mapping is now a combination of geography, power distribution, resource distribution. It is also a cluster which includes economy, technology, and the distribution of this power centers, conflict zones. All of this will be a part of our mapping series. So it's not just geography or environment, it is a combination of all these topics. And out of all those topics, we are beginning with international relations, and within international relations, we did the UN part. What did we do? We saw how to approach the MCQs logically, the bare minimum patterns that you need to observe. And then we solved the previous year questions and close the session. In tomorrow's session, see, generally it is TTS, but this week, because I'll be out of the town, we will be having class tomorrow. Saturday's class I'll be taking tomorrow, Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and again on Thursday for this week. Tomorrow we'll be continuing the second part of the international relations. We'll be picking up some other theme, multilateral organizations or some other theme, and see it holistically like this. And I don't want you to mug up facts. Gain the confidence that no matter what question comes, it is solvable. Did you get that confidence today to a certain extent? Go back, practice, repeat. You will be able to do it. That's it for the day. See you tomorrow.